Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Marvel Legends Modular Iron Man. This is the Iron Man I think most people have been waiting for. It's definitely the one I was most waiting for. I love this design. I do think it's the best looking Iron Man figure out there, or best Iron Man suit out there, and just so happens it's one of the best, if not the best looking Marvel Legends Iron Man figure. So that's pretty darn cool. There's a lot to like about this figure. There are a few things that are probably going to grind some gears, but all in all, it's a solid release. There's still plenty to talk about though, so let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 6 3/4 inches tall, which makes him pretty close to, let's say, 17 centimeters. And before we get into the rest of the review, let's do a quick question of the day. This one's super simple. Do you guys like the way this looks? This gold, kind of a duller gold and a darker red? Or would you prefer to have the brighter yellow and red on the packaging? That's what I would really like. I trust that they will eventually do that. They already have the mold. They might as well do a repaint. I would definitely like that. I'd like to get that yellow on the head, those lines. I'd love to get that, and I'd like the brighter yellow on there too. But you can let me know which one you prefer. This is definitely a nice looking figure as it is. Alright, so as far as aesthetics go, they did a couple of interesting things here. All of the red is molded. I don't think any of it is painted. I couldn't find any painted parts, and I might have missed something, but I don't think so. And so that's okay. It's a darker color. You do get a lot of the marbling in here though. You do still see it, but it's not as bad. I would definitely like to have seen that painted as well. If it's up to me, everything's getting painted, which is a good thing. Or the good thing about this figure is that the gold is all painted except for a few little details. These arm pieces, the leg pieces, though, and the hip pieces, those are not painted. Those are molded and much duller, which is kind of a bummer. But the rest of it is painted, and that's very nice. I know some of you don't want painted parts. A lot of you do. Those of you who don't want painted parts always cite that they can get scratched. And that's true, but I would rather have a figure that looks really good that has a chance of getting scratched than one that just looks like molded plastic. So I definitely prefer the painted gold here, and it looks very, very nice. Even up here, it appears to be painted, even though they used a separate piece for the faceplate, so it's nice and clean, but they still put the paint on there, and I appreciate that because the paint does look so much nicer. It has a much nicer finish than that pearly color, which looks like molded plastic, and that's a bummer to me. But because of that gold on there, it does look really nice. The knee pads are painted, and I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but you can see they have a different sort of luster. The metallic... Whoops. I'm a professional. The metallic paint looks so much nicer than the molded dull plastic. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but in person, it looks way, way nicer. But still, this guy looks great. As far as the proportions, it's one of the best ones they've done. He's got a little bit chunkier thighs. Now, he does have boots on, so his calves are pretty thick, but the lengths are better. The shoulders are broader. The waist is narrower. It does look much better. Front to back, it's a little bit better. You can see the shoulders aren't as far back as they could be. He could have some more thickness for sure in the torso. But all in all, they did a really good job with the proportioning of the head, the body, all of it. You have to give it some leeway for being Iron Man. He doesn't ever really look like a guy in a suit of iron, or at least most of the time. I know it's not actually made out of iron, but a suit of metal. You know, we have like a body-sized person, which is supposed to be in a suit, but either way, they did a really, really good job. And there's some other stuff they did really well, which I'll talk about when we get into the articulation. But I think as far as the aesthetics go, they pretty much nailed it. There is definitely room for improvement, but I'm very pleased with this, and I think most people will be. I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a 9 out of 10. There's not a whole lot they need to do at the Marvel Legends price point to make it better. They definitely could with shading and more paint and that kind of thing, but it is a solid release for Marvel Legends. As far as the accessories go, we have the 2 repulsor blast hands that come in the package, and then the 2 fist hands. Both of those have hinges. And the repulsor blast hands are the only ones. We only get the ones with the holes in them, but that's okay because we do get the repulsor blasts, which are made nicely out of the dark blue with some lighter coloring on there. I definitely would prefer to have a set of hands with painted repulsors on there, but as it is, it's still good enough. 7 out of 10, it's nothing extraordinary. We could definitely have more for this guy, but this will get the job done. Now, as far as articulation goes, we have our standard hinge with the ball peg, and that's fine. But the cool thing is the neck actually is on a ball peg too, but you're mostly just going to get rotation out of it. It could just be, of course I haven't taken it apart, there is play to it. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. It's very little. There is play to it, so I think there's a ball peg in there, and it's not just a sloppy joint, but you can see there's no room for it to go anywhere. So it's just going to be a rotation, so that's cool. Better than nothing, definitely helps. And the hinge, it's very stiff, but it does work. You can lean the head up pretty far. That should be enough for a flight pose. So that's alright. and then bringing it down. You can't go too far down, but it's far enough, obviously. So yeah, I think that works. For the shoulders, these are separate pieces, but they are connected to the shoulder. You kind of have to finagle it to get it to tuck in, but it does tuck in, and you can get better than horizontal range, so that is good. I like that. Of course, you're going to have your rotation, your bicep swivel, double jointed elbow. Works just fine, no issues there. Wrist swivel and hinge. That's all fine. Ab crunch on this guy. Works pretty well going back and pretty well going forward. No real complaints there. Could be, a little bit more finessed, but it's fine. It's fine. Waist twist is good. Now here's the other thing I wanted to point out that I really like about this guy. Let's just pose him like this. Alright, so the hips. You see there aren't giant gaps in the hips. Nothing going crazy here, but you can get the legs all the way out to the side. Maybe they listen to my videos. Maybe they just finally did it. I don't know. But you can leave the hips with almost no gap at all, but if you put the pivot point farther over in the hip, you can get all the range you want. And that's exactly what they did. And he's got full-on splits without having any huge gapping or anything weird going on. You can also bring the leg all the way forward, plus some. It goes up plenty high without kicking out to the side barely at all. Of course, there's going to be some because of the angle right there. But his hips work wonderfully. They even go back just a touch. And without sacrificing any aesthetic at all. That's perfectly good. That's how you're supposed to do it. You do get your thigh swivel, which is done well. Of course, it's a thigh swivel. Double jointed knee works fine. No issues there. You do get a boot swivel, which will be helpful for when you pose the ankle. You can bring, I'll do it on this side. You can bring the foot pretty far forward. It's going to take a little bit of force, but these joints do not like moving. I've already freed up all the joints on this guy, and it still doesn't want to go. So they do go all the way back. Going forward, it takes a little force, but you can get really solid range out of that. Now, you do get the ankle rocker. You get the swivel down here, but it's at a very steep angle. But luckily, you can just rotate it, and because it's Iron Man and because it's a suit of armor, you can't really tell. It's not breaking the anatomy or anything, so you can get a perfectly good ankle rocker out of that. So that's really nice. If you're going to have a steep swivel down here on the ankles, then you want to have a boot swivel also, if you can hide it especially. So that's good. So yeah, the articulation on this guy, it's not like it's extraordinary or anything, but all of the joints do what they're supposed to do. Then that could be a little bit better, but it's not bad. Everything looks good. I'm pleased with it. It's fine. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 for Marvel Legends. It's nothing special. There's nothing above and beyond, but it all works. So I'm happy about that. Alright, time for a final verdict on this guy. My personal favorite Iron Man figure to date, I think. Not counting movie ones, because there's a couple movie ones which were really, really above average. But I think I really like that glossy yellow one that we did the other day, but I really, really like this one. And if they make it in this color scheme and add a little bit more of the detail that I want and get that face sculpt in there, that always kind of drew it where he looked like he had a little bit of an eyebrow sculpted in, like a furrowed brow. I would love to see a little bit of sculpt work going on in here in between the eyes, just a touch. I would love that, and I'd love the other color scheme. Anyway, I'm rambling now because that's my favorite Iron Man design by a lot. Anyway, this figure, very solid. Not a whole lot to complain about, if anything. Just things that could be better, really. Nothing to complain about, if you ask me. So I'm going to give this guy an overall rating of 8 out of 10. Accessories could be better. There are things that could be better. It's a strong release, but it could be better. Yeah. I don't know, I'm having trouble. I want to say 9 out of 10, but the accessories were only a 7. Articulation was only an 8. So we had a 7, 8, and a 9, so it has to go down to 8, averaging-wise. But if it was up to me, I'd give it a 9, just because the aesthetic makes up for the rest. So it is up to me. You know what? 9 out of 10. We're going to do another rating. 9 out of 10. I recommend you get it if you're into Iron Man figures, and if you're not, well, you might want to anyway, because it's a pretty darn cool one. And I'm guessing he's going to be one of the ones that you want to have down the line. Once they're not making them anymore and you have to track them down for a whole lot of extra money. This is probably one you want to have on hand. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought about the figure, and let me know what you thought about the review. You can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever you prefer. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day in the near future, hopefully coming soon. And I've got thousands of videos already on the channel, so even if I don't have new stuff, you can check out my playlist, check out my old uploads, like 4,500 videos. So come back for all of that stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.